We continue our working day at Ukraine Crisis Media Center. The topic for today is results of the Openness of Government 2.0 rating. Our guests are Ihor Lavrynenko, Senior Analyst, Better Regulation Delivery Office, Natalya, Oksha, Deputy Director of the Information and Communications Department, Head of the Secretariat Department of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and Mykola, Kuzyo, Deputy Minister of Ecology on European Integration. Welcome. First, Ihor Lavrynenko is given the floor. Good afternoon. So, this is our second rating. This rating is with added methodology. This time we analyzed the activity not only of the ministries, but also of the central bodies of power. And we analyzed the bodies of power according to 5 criteria: how they highlight their main activity. These are news and not only news. How they provide information about normative and legal acts to financial reports and anti-corruption measures. How they communicate with the public and business, and whether their sites are in correspondence with current legislation. And the biggest score, so one score is one criteria. The leader is the Ministry of Ecology. It got the first place in our rating, 71 out of 77. They have a wonderful site that is created, and it meets the majority of criteria. And we believe that the Ministry of Ecology should share its experience with other ministries, because they face more problems in other ministries. So the Ministry of Information Policy and Information of Agrarian Policy and Ministry of Energy, they meet half of normative requirements concerning their sites. Also, we analyzed the dynamics of work of the ministries, whether they improved their communication through their sites, and part of the ministries, they improved their work. The Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and those who worsened, Ministry of Trade and Ministry of Finance. The legislation provides that the ministry should put information on their sites about procurement, about normative and legal acts, about the budget, about the implementation of this budget, and the majority of bodies of power do not pay enough attention to these requirements, and their information is not properly updated, and they do not update the information for several years. The same with the state bodies, state departments, and one of the examples, State Service of Emergency Situation. They meet nearly all the requirements, 71 points, and there are ministries who do not pay enough attention to this. The Reserve Ministry, Energy Supervision Ministry, and the National Institute of National Memory. So they should implement legislative requirements concerning their site, but they do not do this for some reason. Also, half a year ago, we presented our first rating, and we provided recommendations to each of the ministries how to improve the work of their sites. A part of ministries communicated with us and took into account our recommendations. Out of we provided 154 recommendations, so half of the ministries are not interested in improvement of their sites. Also, during the last half year, the work of the bodies of power with their sites and their communication with the public improved, but there are some drawbacks, and these drawbacks can be divided into two groups. First, the drawbacks in communication with the public. The ministries didn't adapt their sites for those people who have problems with their vision, and they didn't adopt their sites to mobile applications and for provision of e-services. And second drawback is that the ministries, they ignore or do not provide the information that should be on the site, starting with information concerning state procurement and ending with information about declarations of the officials. And this is a short presentation of the rating, and now I give the floor to the representative of the Ministry of Ecology. And in this half year, they dramatically improved their communication with the public. Thank you very much. First, we thank the team that prepared this rating and presentation. I believe that this is really good and interesting initiative, and we are able now to get independent assessment of experts in order to improve the work we do and to implement their recommendations in our plans. And as my colleagues said, this was done in this half year. Also, there were several such things why this became possible. First, this is the approach towards elaboration of policy that we introduce at the ministry. We believe that openness and the broad public consultations, this is the integral part of formation of policy and elaboration of decisions. So this is not only informing the public about the activity of the ministry, but first of all, this is bilateral communication. And such instruments as sites, as openness, we have two positions on this. So the first one, and in the association agreement, there are directives that require from Ukraine to provide information, and we introduce and implement these directives. Also, there is Aarhus Convention that demands the access to ecology information, and also there are directives concerning the public participation in decision-taking, and these instruments we try to implement in our daily work, and the site is the place to provide information and in order to elaborate and to take these decisions. And these initiatives and the projects that are on the site, they are discussed on the site, and also it's not enough to just place draft document on the site. We should really carry out broad discussions of these documents, and this is the approach we develop at the Ministry of Ecology. Also, if we are looking at the main things, the launch of the new site with proper architecture and the tags and other modern instruments, what we're able to publish 12 sets of data that was not published before, and we will continue with this activity. We have a lot of plans to improve, and we will be thankful and grateful for further cooperation if those products that we will form, they should be of quality and they should be in the interest of the public. Also, on the site, we have such a thing as interactive representation of the budget. We believe this is an interesting and right practice because the directions of the policy in the sphere of environment, they should be open for discussion, and also for us and for the public eco map is of interest. It provided opportunity to the public to deal with these issues and to get a lot of interesting and important information in order to elaborate quality policy and implement this policy. And we believe that this instrument can continue, and it can have more layers, and it can become more practical. And also this is the case of eco map, and the Aarhus Convention is represented as one of the best practices of implementation of IT instruments and the process of decision making. And it was the meeting of the committee in UN, and the eco map was presented as a good practice. And also an interesting instrument on the site is that we supported the Eco Info project that is the winner of a challenge. And this is an interesting instrument that provides opportunity to have excursions in the national preserves of Ukraine, and that can be of interest to the public. And also summing up, we are thankful for recommendations concerning what we can improve now, and also we work on the new system of open environment, and we will be able to integrate and collect data about the environment, and public and analytical centers who work with this information in order that they had access to this information and were able to jointly work in order to form and implement the policy, and that the public should know about the environment in some territories. So this is a complicated project, but we have enough will and drive in order to implement it, and we hope that during next stages we will be able to speak about success and what we will be able to achieve in order to improve the site and further develop it. So, comments. I believe it would be right if the ministry would disseminate this experience to other organizations, because what agency have 65 scores, but the ecology inspection, they have only 44 points, and they have a lot of work ahead of them. Now the floor is given to Natalya Oksha. Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to continue. I have a proposal that the ministry should share its experience not only with its organizations, but also to tell about the experience to other bodies of state power. And each week the Secretariat of the Cabinet of Ministers organized the meetings in the framework of the single communication strategy of the government, One Voice as it is called, in order to share best experience. And I believe that it is important that independent organizations carry out such monitoring, and in this we may see cooperation. Maybe not all governmental bodies took part, took into account your recommendations, but the majority of them really did this, and we hope that this work will be more intense. And the government adopted the concept of e-democracy, and they adopted the plan for its realization. And one of the tasks envisaged by this plan is to improve the provision number 3 that was adopted in 2001, that identifies the list of information that should be placed on site. And if we are speaking about the law on public information, this provision regulated more detailed information about this, and I have a proposal to the effective regulation platform in order to develop recommendations based on the study of the sites to whether the information is up to date, whether information should be broadened, and maybe about the structure of the sites. And often we see such a problem that information is on the site, but it is difficult to find it, and it takes a lot of time to find this information. And I believe that we can have good cooperation in this. Also, I would like to support my colleague from the Ministry of Ecology. We should develop cooperation with the public, not only on the site, but also directly speak with the representatives of the civil society, with the citizens, and this helps to communicate properly, not only through the site, because sites, they are mostly for informing people, and they are really helpful. If you put information on the site, and the more information you put there, the less you have questions to the state bodies and requests for information. Because if you do not put all information on the site, people are searching important information, and they address with requests to institutions, and many representatives of the executive power, they say that there are a lot of requests for information from the public. And the information on the site, if it is presented in full, that is one of the ways to reduce the number of requests from the public to the governmental bodies. Also, I'd like to inform that in the nearest future, all executive bodies will develop the plans of consultations with the public, and I ask you to join. This will be plans for the next year, and everyone can propose those issues that are important for discussion. And as of today, the pressing issue is transfer from elaboration of draft acts and analyzing of the policy, analysis of the problems together with the public. So these issues are of importance. Also, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that starting 1st January, Cabinet of Ministers will start the work to develop new plan of implementation of open government initiative. And the aim of this initiative is to identify in our country those problematic issues on which executive bodies can work, I stress, together with the civil society and business during the next 2 years. And the first stage that is in the framework of this initiative is the collection of proposals from the citizens. That's why I propose everyone to join to this issue. And the discussion and preparation of the plan will last half a year. And I hope that everyone will have opportunity to join this work. Thank you. Thank you, Natalya. And now, do you have questions? Please, dear colleagues, if you have questions, please. If there are no questions, I have a question, a specifying question. As I understand, you made this decision public today. Maybe some ministries, outsiders, addressed you and asked you what can be done in order to improve. So we presented this rating on our site, and before this we sent the draft of our rating, and half the bodies of power provided us with the feedback, and they explained what steps will be made in the nearest future in order to improve the work of their sites. and we had individual consultations with the several ministries, and some of them, as of today, improved their sites, and in the rating there is information as of 25th of October. And tell us, please, about the next rating. Maybe it will be in half a year. So maybe our audience have some questions now.